It's Championship Sunday in the NFL, with the Eagles hosting the 49ers and the Chiefs in it for the fifth straight year, hosting the Bengals. Sal Pao on all aspects of Birds Niners. Sean Green has your championship picks and props. Gary Myers weighs in on Bills Bengals, and we'll look at some NFL teams that are peering over the abyss in 2023. That's all right now on a championship edition of This Week in Pro Football.
It's time for This Week in Pro Football, a deep dive into the key issues and marquee matchups in the National Football League. For the next 60 minutes, we invite you to sit back or lean in with host Pat Callahan as we preview the week's Eagles matchup, big games, breaking stories, and all news NFL. It's This Week in Pro Football, right now on JAKIB Sports.
Hello, everyone. Pat Callahan joining you for a championship weekend edition of This Week in Pro Football. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. We are brought back, of course, by popular demand here to at least see this Eagles run through, which certainly I hope takes us all the way to the Super Bowl in Arizona. Philadelphia, I think, sent a nice reminder to everybody in the NFL last week that they are still a team to be reckoned with. They'd kind of fallen off the radar there a little bit, and teams were really getting behind, like the Giants, who were coming on and were going to be a credible threat to Philadelphia. And, of course, the media's love affair with Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers. Well, one question's been answered. That is the Eagles thrashing the Giants last Saturday night. And the other question is about to be answered on Sunday when the Eagles host Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers, who do come to Philadelphia on a 12-game win streak. And I have to point out that the last four teams that come to the NFC championship game or a conference championship game on a 12-game winning streak, three of the four made it to the Super Bowl. So this is no way an easy walk for Philadelphia. They're going to need to bring the exact same game that they brought to New York Saturday night in order to beat a very, very quality and talented team in San Francisco. But the Eagles can do it. They can do it. This is just an excellent team. And I think the 49ers, and we're going to talk to Sal Pao about this at some length, is I've got a couple of stats here that I hope even impresses Sal concerning the 49ers. And, of course, Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is he's their third string quarterback, and God bless him. He's done one hell of a job for the 49ers. There's no question about it. But, you know, he hasn't exactly played a murderer's row in the 5 games that he has won, and he's taking a big step up in class on Sunday. Xander, let's bring up a little Vince Lombardi here. What the hell is going on out there? We'll get through this real quickly and then bring Sal on. Dak stinks, as per the Cowboys' official Twitter feed. Xander, bring that up. This is unbelievable. Dallas Cowboys' official Twitter feed posted this after that loss on Sunday. Dak gave away the ball twice in the narrow loss to the 49ers, and then references self-inflicted wounds, which prevented their winning. This is not normally what an official Twitter feed of an NFL team does, talking about their star quarterback. A lot going on in Dallas. In the next couple of weeks, as we get towards the Super Bowl, perhaps if Sal has more time and we're not concentrating so much on the Eagles, we could flesh that out, because that is a fascinating story going on down in Dallas. Oh, those Buffalo Bills. Another team I'd like to talk more about is Buffalo. Clearly is not as good as many, including me, thought. I thought the Bills were clearly the class of the AFC. Well, that was not correct. Cincinnati methodically beat Buffalo last week, and Cincinnati and Kansas City clearly now the top 2 teams in the AFC. Buffalo just ignores its running game, and every year it comes back to bite them. So the Bills have some work to do, and their defense not nearly as good as it was made out to be. Hey, the Eagles are good again. How about that? I mentioned that a minute ago. They just bashed the Giants. What an impressive performance by the Eagles, running for over 200 yards, just dominating both lines of scrimmage. Their defensive front is just terrorizing people. 70 sacks during the regular season, another number of sacks last week. Just terrific play by the Eagles. And certainly, hopefully, it keeps going on Sunday, but against, as I said, a much higher quality opponent in San Francisco. But so the Eagles all of a sudden are back amongst everybody's best teams. And some big snubs here, I thought. Now, I see conflicting reports here. I see top 5 NFL for Coach of the Year includes Nick Sirianni, but then I see there's only 3, and it's Daboll and Shanahan and I don't know who the other one is. Our boy Doug are the top 3 for the NFL Coach of the Year. And it looks like Nick Sirianni is going to get snubbed. I think that's ridiculous. He had the most wins of any team in the NFL, and now can't consider him. The Eagles, I'm not saying the Eagles came out of nowhere, but he did a hell of a job with that team, has done a hell of a job. And apparently he's going to get snubbed for Coach of the Year. And Brandon Graham, all of a sudden, comeback player of the year now just means if you come back from not being that good, you're comeback player of the year. For instance, Geno Smith. Geno Smith wasn't that good the last couple of years. He was terrific this year. So give him comeback player of the year? I don't think so. Brandon Graham, off a serious injury, comes back, 11 sacks, plays terrific for a guy on the downside of his career. Should have been given some consideration. The Eagles just don't seem to merit well with the national press. Let's find out more about that. How about we bring on one of the greats in the national press? And that would be the host of the NFL Matchup Show, ESPN's national correspondent, Sal Paolantonio. Sal, how you doing?
Pat, I thought you were going to leave me out of the national press. I mean, I think very, very highly of this football team. And I'm always like, I'm like Nikita Khrushchev. I'm banging the shoe on the table at the UN, on the UN and making sure that Eagles get their due. But I'm shocked, too. Nick Sirianni, for sure. I thought he would be odds-on Coach of the Year. I mean, come on, you transform Jalen Hurts into a Super Bowl quarterback, on doorstep of the Super Bowl. That alone, and you had the best record throughout the NFL most of the year, Pat.
I sometimes wonder, what do you think it is? Do you think it's? I mean, his appearance is not that of an NFL. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but just his appearance sometimes is not that of an NFL coach. He's got the 5 o'clock shadow all the time. He's not that Bill Belichick square-jawed guy. I don't know, but he clearly isn't getting the respect he should get, right?
No, I agree. He's not getting the respect.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, Sal, let's go. There's a few things I want to there's a million things I want to talk to you about this game. Let me hit you with a couple of these first, and you tell me, just give me your thoughts on them. They're the 2 quarterbacks, the youngest combined age ever in a conference championship game. Is this maybe a little bit of the changing of the guard? Because I went back through a number of conference championship games, and for the last 10 years, they've had a Rodgers in them or a Brady in them, or a Matt Ryan or a Drew Brees. A little bit of the changing of the guard here.
Yes, passing of the torch, changing of the guard. There's no question about it. So one of the guys that I like to listen to, who I think is very smart about these things, is Steve Young. And Steve Young was asked what advice he would give to one of these young quarterbacks in a title game on the doorstep of the Super Bowl. And he said, it's over quick if you make a mistake early. Make sure you don't make that mistake early in the game or late in the game. And there's only a few opportunities. It's not like the NBA. It's not like the World Series where you have a best of 7.
Right.
It's all, you're one and done. You don't get the opportunity to make the big mistake in the big game and survive. It's just very rare that happens. And so I would say the quarterback that does not turn the ball over is going to win this game, I think. And I think the Eagles can force Brock Purdy to turn the ball over.
Yeah. I was going to mention, Sal, Brock Purdy in those 5 games in which he has won. He's 5 of the 12 games in San Francisco's winning streak. He was, in fact, the quarterback. Well, I mean, as my notes mentioned, and not exactly a murderer's row there for Brock. You're talking about him defeating Seattle, Arizona. Washington was his first game. And then last week, Dallas, a quality opponent. But I don't think Brock Purdy won that game. But he's performed extremely well. But isn't there a notable step up in class here, and you think he's ready for it?
I think Hassan Reddick also should be in the final 4 or 5 or 3 or 4 for Defensive Player of the Year. He has 17.5 sacks. Nick Bosa has 18.5. So, and I think you look at the tape, Hassan Reddick, speed to power, rangy speed, long arms, long legs, really forceful. Up the middle, has a number of really good moves. And the way he took the heart out of the Giants on their first drive, I thought set the tone for the Philadelphia Eagles. So to me, when you look at what the 49ers were not able to do last week, Pat, they did not really block the Cowboys' defensive front very well. especially early in the game. Late in the game, Kyle Shanahan got some religion and started running the football. But Hassan Reddick and that pass rush of the Philadelphia Eagles is the best that the Niners will face this year. And they win with just rushing 4 all of the time.
Right.
They do. They will.
Right.
But, last week, Jonathan Gannon showed us some little flourishes of creativity in his blitzing scheme. And I thought they were very effective. And he played press man coverage behind it. I think in this particular game, you're going to see some of those little creative flourishes as well. I think the major mismatch in this game is the Eagles' pass rush, specifically Hassan Reddick and Brock Purdy being under duress.
All right. Well, I want to get into that more. I want to talk more about the Niners themselves, Sal, and of course, the matchups that I'm very interested in. I'm going to ask you Eagles offense versus Niners defense and vice versa. Who's got the edge? And Sal sent me just a bevy of stats from ESPN Stats and Info. Some real gems in there. I want to get in there with you. Please stay with us. We're coming back with Sal.
Hey, we're right here, Pat. It's great. The show is back, Pat.
We got Sean Green.
Demand. We
Sean
tried
Green's
to leave and
joining
they
us.
pulled us right back in.
Sean Green is joining us at the bottom of the hour. We'll have some props and picks from him. Gary Myers later on. Please stay with us here on This Week in Pro Football.
First Bank is a true community bank with offices located throughout eastern Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Being a First Bank customer comes with access to personal bankers, ones who know you and your business almost as well as you do. Joe Calabro is a regional president of First Bank and has been a leader and a lender in the southeastern Pennsylvania market for over 30 years. Call their Westchester office, 484-881-3800. First Bank is an equal opportunity lender and member FDIC.
Concrete Cutting Systems Incorporated, the concrete cutting specialists in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. These guys are celebrating their 28th anniversary as the industry leader in the field of concrete cutting and robotic demolition. Any type of concrete cutting or drilling, concrete demolition or interior excavating, call the specialists. Concrete Cutting Systems. They're the only full union concrete cutting company based in Philadelphia. Call the guys today at 215-533-0652. The website is concretecuttingsystems.net. Let's go Eagles.
UGI Energy Services knows how dedicated you are to your teams, and that's how they feel about their customers. UGI Energy Services, a natural gas and electric provider servicing Philadelphia and the surrounding areas for decades. They're your local partner for energy planning and budgeting with sound purchasing advice and direct pricing. UGI Energy Services values customers and believes in building honest relationships. Let them help you save money on your energy bill and make enjoying the game that much sweeter. Get started with a free quote today at ugies.com.
Cantor, Novak, Beaver & Pike is a full-service CPA firm with offices in PA and New Jersey, offering first-rate accounting, audit, and tax services. They focus on helping clients achieve their business and financial goals, from startup operation to long-term financial planning. For more information, call Terry Cantor or Dan Pike at 215-550-2954 or on the web at cnbpcpas.com.
Are you looking for a family-friendly fitness center in the heart of Bucks County? Spring Mill Athletic Club has programs and activities to offer the whole family for every age and season. Group classes, personal training, dance academy, summer camp, and more can be found at this non-intimidating environment. Come tour Spring Mill Athletic Club today and get a free 1-week trial membership. Visit us at springmillathletic.com for more information.
I want to be a game changer in construction. I want to be able to provide diversity in the workforce, and it starts at the top. I started Rodriguez Construction Group in 2013 with 2 employees, and we're 85 strong today. M&T has been a great partner since day one, providing us the access, the opportunity, the funding to be able to continue our growth. We can change the community in a positive way, one person at a time, one job at a time, and one family at a time. I think M&T Bank is very committed to the community, just like us.
Hi, welcome back This Week in Pro Football. Pat Callahan joined by the great Sal Paolantonio from ESPN, the NFL Matchup Show. We're looking forward to that, Sal, certainly this weekend. You can follow him on Instagram, Sal Pal ESPN. I got it, right? Just got it. All right, you can follow me too on Twitter if you don't mind, at TWIPF Pat. I'd like about another 18,000 followers by the time the show is over. Appreciate it. All right, Sal, just tell me if this isn't just some flight of fancy on my part, but I noticed that the 49ers coming east to play the Eagles this Sunday. The 49ers have not been east of Vegas since October 16th. In other words, their schedule was such that they're either playing at home or on the West Coast, and they haven't gone east of Vegas since then. That is one hell of an advantage for a team to spend basically 3 months playing home games.
Well, it is, but it's also a disadvantage because they got to get on a long flight to play their biggest game of the year in a very hostile environment. And they haven't. Here's more important number, Pat, or aspect of this game. They haven't faced a dual threat quarterback of Jalen Hurts' quality since week 1 when they played against Justin Fields in Chicago, and they lost that game 19-10. Now, Justin Fields didn't have a pyrotechnic game like Jalen Hurts is capable of having. Nevertheless, they've gone through the whole year not playing a guy who can run like this. So I want to give you a number here that it's important. So last week, the Eagles' zone read run game was historic. It was diabolical. They had 31 rushes in their zone read run game. That's where Jalen Hurts reads the defense and gives the ball off to one of the running backs.
Right.
And they gained 221 yards, Pat. 221 yards. Some teams don't go 4 weeks gaining 221 yards in their run game. It was really phenomenal. And the guy who led the way was Kenny Gainwell. They have found something in Kenny Gainwell. He hits the hole real quick, and he's quick out of the hole. And I tell you, he was super successful in the zone read run game. And Jalen Hurts is the one who makes it go because he showed early what? He showed early that he was a willing participant in the run game, that he wasn't hindered in any way, shape, or form by the injury.
Well, now that begs the question. I saw a hit that you did this week with Tim McManus, and Tim quoted to you the quote he got from Jalen Hurts about how he was feeling, in which he said, quote, "I felt better, but it doesn't really matter." But you feel that Hurts is in good enough shape. I think they're playing a team Sunday, Sal, that will gun for his shoulder. You don't see that as an issue?
The Giants gun for it, Pat. So 3 things. Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen and Brian Johnson, the quarterback's coach, taught and focused on with Jalen Hurts. 1, get out of bounds early. 2, slide early. 3, when you're going down, torque your body so you go on your left shoulder and you don't land on your right shoulder. And it worked.
Right. All right. Now let's stay with that. The Eagles' run game versus the San Francisco rush defense. Both are top 7 per ESPN Stats and Info, which you were kind enough to send me. Both are top 7 in rush yards per game, either gained or allowed, rush TD per game, and average yards per rush. So how do you see it? Who do you see winning this? What is a pivotal matchup in this game?
I think the Eagles win it. I think the Eagles have an offensive line that the 49ers haven't faced. They're tough, strong, and smart, well coached. And I would run at Nick Bosa. So Bosa ranked 180th out of 195 qualified defensive ends in run stop win rate. 21% was his run stop win rate, and that was in the bottom of the percentile of all rush ends. So run right at him and preoccupy him, and don't let him unload in his pass rush.
Nick Bosa becomes a household name and a big star because the 49ers are winning 27-14 late in the game, and he tees off. It'd be a way different story if he's getting run over.
Yes,
so you're certainly right about that.
Yeah, they'll swing the guard around or Jason Kelsey around. They'll double team him, and Jalen Hurts has become very adept at ball handling and reading, and knowing exactly when to place the ball in the running back's belly.
All right. Now let's flip the script here. Let's talk about San Francisco and their passing game against the Eagles, which is, that's a veteran defense the Eagles have. There's not that many guys on that starting 11 that are going to get fooled. I think the Eagles have a decided advantage here. How do you see it?
I don't, Pat. I think, they're going to have to really study tape this week. and look at the tendencies of Kyle Shanahan's offense. When is he, using screens to Deebo Samuel? When is he doing reverses and pitches to Samuel? When is he using McCaffrey between the tackles? When is he has a really well-designed middle of the field tight end screen to George Kittle.
Right.
I think that the Eagles are facing their best playmakers, the best playmakers they have faced all season long. I don't think there's another team that they have faced that has this level of playmakers.
Right.
Cowboys don't. The Giants certainly don't. Washington doesn't.
No.
Really, you have to go back to the Packer game. I thought, Aaron Rodgers did a good job of changing the pace and the direction and scoring a lot of points on the Eagles did. So I think this is a game where they will have their hands full with these guys.
Now, perhaps I should refine it to say, Sal, that if the Eagles can get Purdy in 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8 type situations, right, then I guess my point about the passing game maybe has more substance, because then the Eagles defensive line, as you mentioned, the 4 of them can tee off without having to blitz anybody else. Then I think the Eagles have a good edge, but they're going to have to contain McCaffrey in order to do that, right?
And where does Shanahan get in trouble historically? He passes the ball early. He goes pass happy early.
Yeah.
And, he forgets about the run game. I mean, literally, you look at that game last week, Dak Prescott bailed Kyle Shanahan out.
Yeah.
That was not a blowout.
No, it was not.
It was not a blowout.
I agree.
And, and it took 2 interceptions by Dak Prescott and some really poor decision-making by Dak Prescott in order for the 49ers to win. And then, they came out of the halftime locker room and they said, okay, enough of this. It's going to be Elijah Moore. It's going to be Christian McCaffrey. We are going to run the ball. And that was the dominant theme of the second half, and the Cowboys couldn't stop it.
Right. All right, Sal, let me talk with Sal Paolantonio here from the ESPN and the NFL Matchup Show. Sal, let's talk about coaching. Now, Kyle Shanahan has been here, right? He was here a year ago in Los Angeles. Thank God the Rams were able to win that road game against San Francisco. But now Nick Sirianni, this is now you're in the big time now. The Eagles head coach and Shane Steichen, Gannon, the coordinators versus San Francisco's head coach and coordinators. Who's got the edge there?
I don't think anybody does. I think it's a push. Kyle Shanahan has had some issues, if you remember. When he was the offensive coordinator in Atlanta, Tom Brady in that Super Bowl came back from 28-3. And, oh, by the way, in the championship game last year, the Rams played better in the second half, and Kyle Shanahan did not have an answer offensively.
They were up 17-7 in that game. You're right.
Yeah. So, there's a history there of Kyle Shanahan not having the upper hand as far as coaching acumen goes. Right. So I think here's what DeMeco Ryans has done. He's let his playmakers loose. And that, I think, is the key. You look at 54 and 57, Bosa, 97, Warner, 54, 57, Dre Greenlaw. Those are the 3 guys you have to account for. You can block Eric Armstead, I think, number 91. They'll be fine blocking him. Right. I think Jason Kelsey will be fine. But then you've got to have guys go to the second level and pick these guys off. And it's hard because DeMeco Ryans has these guys in good alignment and assignment football. You watch them on film, Pat. Yeah. They don't make mistakes. Yeah. And they're ferocious tacklers, and they've got speed. Those are the 2 guys that are a big issue for this.
I agree, Sal. And quite frankly, I think I've watched a lot of those guys. And I think they both come with an intent that I shouldn't say, maybe not an intent to injure, but they arrive at the ball carrier in a bad mood. And I think that's why I mentioned earlier about Jalen Hurts. The Eagles have got to find those 2 guys, you are right, and neutralize them in order to get that ground game.
So what I see the 49ers doing is taking away the security blankets for Jalen Hurts in the passing game, Dallas Goedert and A.J. Brown. Take those 2 guys away and make Jalen Hurts either run with the football or find a check down or locate Devontae Smith. To me, I'm looking at this game. They'll try to feed the ball to A.J. Brown. Why? He had 6 targets, 3 catches for 22 yards. He didn't look too happy about it on the bench at the end of the game. Yeah, and Nick Sirianni on Monday even acknowledged that A.J. Brown was a little frustrated by what happened on Saturday night. So I think they'll feed it to him early if they can. And I think that is the number one gamble that this Eagles offense can take. When a guy wants the ball like that, the quarterback is prone to making mistakes and the wide receiver is prone to making mistakes. That's extending the ball too much. Then they start digging it out.
There's no doubt.
Pat, that is where I am concerned, is that they will overextend themselves in trying to get A.J. Brown the football, and that's where the turnovers could happen.
All right, but at the same time,
mark this part of the program down right here.
Okay.
26 minutes into the great This Week in Pro Football. Mark it down. We don't want this to be fortune told, but I'm telling you, that is an issue for this football team, because you look at the Niners, especially at the second and third level of that team, all they're doing is trying to dig the ball out. They led the NFL in turnovers.
But you got a quarterback in Jalen Hurts who led the league in 20-plus yard passes and 20-plus yard touchdown passes. And the maybe one of the noted weaknesses, if there are any, in San Francisco's defense is in chunk plays. I think the Eagles should hit a couple. I think they could hit a couple of these, but I agree with your point. Don't force them. But I think a couple of those plays might be there.
They will try to take Goddard and Brown away. That's what they will try to do. I guarantee you.
All right.
Because Goddard, he got all bullied and he bullied the Giants.
Yeah.
And the Niners are not going to stand for that.
Yeah.
They're not.
All right, Sal, how do you see this thing going out? I think it's going to be obviously you see this as a very tough game. You don't see any kind of blowout on
I don't, Pat. I think I called the last game 38-17 that the Eagles would win. I think this game, the Eagles will win the game. I think the Eagles will win the game, but it'll be 24-20 or 23-20. I think it's just going to be a close game, a nail biter. I think, again, let's go back to what Steve Young said. The quarterback that makes the mistakes early in the game, giving the ball away, that it's hard to come back from that in a championship game, Pat. It really is.
I agree.
Pat, and, by the way, congratulations to This Week in Pro Football. You planted your flag here on JAKIB Media. You got a great producer in Xander, and they brought you back by popular demand. Pat, come on, it's championship week. You got to have This Week in Pro Football.
I hope so, Sal, and I appreciate you.
Congratulations, Pat. I mean, it's really good. I hear a lot of great feedback about the show, and you're doing a terrific job. It's a serious-minded show, and I think people are reacting to it.
All right. Well, I certainly appreciate that very much, and I certainly appreciate you spending so much time with me in this segment every week. It's a real highlight. So thanks very much, and I look forward to talking to you hopefully the next couple of weeks as you get ready to don't need any shoes. There's no socks, Sal. You're going to Arizona. Hopefully you got the green socks to go with you. Huh?
All right, Pat. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, Sal. Thanks very much. The great Sal Paolantonio joining me there, and great discussion about this game. I'm sure Sal's right. I'd be very surprised if this is a blowout either way, but I think if any team's going to win by a sizable amount, I think it's going to be Philadelphia. I think they can rattle this kid, and I think that's what they got to do. That is a third-string rookie quarterback. Sooner or later, somebody's going to make the real Brock Purdy show up, and I think it could be, hopefully, is going to be Sunday. All right, when we get back, I just got some NFL news and notes. I want to hit you with some teams that are staring at the abyss, in my opinion, and some teams who really fell far short of expectations. We'll look at that and some salary cap nightmares. That's next on This Week in Pro Football.
I grew up in a home, and I wanted my kids to have that. The process of buying a home seemed so daunting, but Christine and M&T believed in me. Everyone took an interest and helped me through the process. You don't get this kind of service everywhere. I closed on the house and I didn't tell the kids. They were like, oh, you got the key? You closed on the home? They were so happy. M&T Bank made this dream come true for me and my girls.
UGI Energy Services knows how dedicated you are to your teams, and that's how they feel about their customers. UGI Energy Services, a natural gas and electric provider servicing Philadelphia and the surrounding areas for decades. They're your local partner for energy planning and budgeting with sound purchasing advice and direct pricing. UGI Energy Services values customers and believes in building honest relationships. Let them help you save money on your energy bill and make enjoying the game that much sweeter. Get started with a free quote today at ugies.com.
At Whistler Pearlstein LLP, we assemble the most effective team to handle all of your legal needs. There are players and pretenders, but our hustle and heart set us apart. In practice now for over 75 years, we're proud to be one of the most prominent full-service law firms in the Philadelphia region. We offer 17 different areas of practice, including business, corporate, and tax education law, real estate, zoning, and land development, municipal law, and litigation. Our top-rated attorneys and staff are laser-focused on client success. We strive to provide outstanding legal counsel with the highest level of care and consideration. Let us show you the Whistler way. Learn more at WhistlerPearlstein.com or email Michael J. O'Donohue at mod@WhisPearl.com. WhistlerPearlstein.com or mod@WhisPearl.com.
Concrete Cutting Systems Incorporated, the concrete cutting specialists in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. These guys are celebrating their 28th anniversary as the industry leader in the field of concrete cutting and robotic demolition. Any type of concrete cutting or drilling, concrete demolition or interior excavating, call the specialists. Concrete Cutting Systems. They're the only full union concrete cutting company based in Philadelphia. Call the guys today at 215-533-0652. The website is concretecuttingsystems.net. Let's go Eagles.
It was late at night. I was browsing KennedyAuto.com when there was a knock at my door.
Hey, baby, what you doing?
Buying a car from John Kennedy Ford.
Online?
I let her in on the secret. KennedyAuto.com makes car buying easy. That got her attention.
Can I go for a ride?
Let me get my coat. KennedyAuto.com. Enjoy your ride.
Welcome back, everybody, to This Week in Pro Football, Championship Week edition. Give me a follow at TWIPF Pat on Twitter. You can follow the network at JAKIB Sports on Twitter as we rumble towards 3:30 p.m., or I think it's 3 p.m., 3 p.m. Sunday, Philadelphia hosting San Francisco in what I believe will be the most raucous Lincoln Financial Field since 2017. I was at the 2017 playoff game against Atlanta. That place was seriously rocking when the Eagles pulled that game off. And I know it was the same a week later against Minnesota. And I believe it'll hit a decibel level unseen around here in 5 years on Sunday. Good weather for the Niners. It's supposed to be cloudy, about 50 degrees. San Francisco will escape what could have been a real Philadelphia January, but we're not getting a Philadelphia January. All it does is rain. So, all right, a couple news and notes here presented by the good folks at the Concrete Cutting Systems that I thought you might find of interest. Kansas City has been favored in 14 straight playoff games over the last 5 years. What a job by Andy Reid. No one can even remotely deny the job he has done. Of course, it doesn't hurt that Patty Mahomes, but Reid engineered that trade. The Chiefs traded up in that draft to get him, so he deserves all that credit too. 14 straight. They are a dog, a 1.5-point dog against Cincinnati this week on their own field. A lot of that has to do with Mahomes' ankle, but still. I didn't get to talk with Sal about that game. We'll talk more with Sean Green about it in just a few minutes and with Gary Myers. But I think Cincinnati should be the favorite in this game. Don't you get the impression the Bengals are on a mission from God here? They dispatched the Buffalo. And I think the Bengals want to get back to the Super Bowl again and right what they perceived as a wrong. So that should be a great game too. 6:30 Sunday night, Cincinnati at Kansas City. Speaking of the Bengals came into the league in 1968. Joe Burrow has 5 playoff wins as a Bengals quarterback. He now has as many playoff wins as every other Bengal quarterback combined. in the 54-year history of the Cincinnati Bengals. How's that? It's like I say, the Bengals have stunk for a number of years, and they kept getting number one draft picks, and in successive drafts, they come up with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Well, they ought to be good, right? I mean, sooner or later, you keep picking these top fives like Cincinnati, Detroit. Well, you better get good at some point, and the Bengals certainly have. Just a couple notes about teams facing an uncertain 2023. And I want to mention a few in particular here. Aren't we all? I mentioned at the top of the show the Buffalo Bills. I thought we're going to run through the AFC, and I was dead wrong. Buffalo had a strong year, 13-4, but they were exposed again last Sunday against Cincinnati. They never run the ball. They have no running game whatsoever other than Josh Allen improvising. And sooner or later, that's going to hurt you. And when Von Miller went down, they lost their pass rush. And Burrow, he just looked terrific last week. He was not fazed at all by being in a snowy Buffalo on the road. Didn't matter at all. He was the better quarterback, quite frankly, in that game Sunday. Buffalo's got some work to do. They keep winning the AFC East, but the fact is the Bills have 3 division titles. They've been the playoffs 4 straight years, and they've not even made it to the Super Bowl. So the window might actually be starting to close now on the Bills, even though Josh Allen's still in his prime. What do you say about the Dallas Cowboys? 12-5 this year, lost in the division round. 12-5 last year, lost in the wild card round to San Francisco. Their last Super Bowl appearance, 1996. Last time Dallas was in the Super Bowl. So, I mean, that, ladies and gentlemen, is 26 years ago. So the Cowboys, the star on the helmet. Philadelphia's been to 7 NFC championship games since 2000. Dallas just never gets there. Never gets there. So the Cowboys just keep they'll be America's team forever, but another bitterly disappointing loss after a great win against Tampa Bay. Dallas just can't do it. They just can't do it consistently. And they lost to San Francisco last week. Sal's right. The game was close, but did you ever really feel San Francisco was threatened later on in that game? I don't know, but the Cowboys just can't seem to get over any kind of a hump. The other team I want to focus on too is Minnesota. The Vikings, the last 5 years, they're 46-35. I guess that's okay. A 1-2 postseason though. And their last Super Bowl appearance, how about this, ladies and gentlemen? 1977. Isn't it something how marquee NFC teams like the Cowboys, like the Vikings, they're on throughout a 17-week season. They're probably each on the maximum 5 times in primetime games. They're on Dallas constantly on Sunday afternoon late games. But they never bother to show up on Championship Sunday. It's Philadelphia showing up on Championship Sunday. It's San Francisco. It's Tampa Bay. It's not the Dallas, and it's not Minnesota. So, again, here's a franchise, the Vikings, that's always good enough every year to seemingly get to January, and then they're dispatched. And a lot of soul-searching's got to get done there. One other thing before we get to break, talking about the salary cap, ladies and gentlemen. You'll hear some of these same names again going into it and assuming a $225 million cap. This is according to overthecap.com. Tampa Bay goes into the 2023 season $58 million over the cap. New Orleans, $56 million over the cap. Jacksonville, $30 million. I'm shocked at that. Tennessee, $28 million. Minnesota, $22 million. Green Bay, $21 million. Those are the teams that are the highest over the cap going into next season. I mean, they actually have to cut some guys or restructure some guys just to get to the cap. And what do you notice from all those teams? None of them that I just mentioned to you got to the divisional round of the playoffs, except for Jacksonville. And that would have been the one team you would have said, no, didn't get there. Only the Jaguars got there. None of the other teams did. So no wonder the Packers are not answering the phone. They're looking at paying Aaron Rodgers $59 million next year on a $225 million salary cap. What would you do? So a lot of teams with a lot of decisions to make, a lot of marquee teams with a lot of decisions to make going into 2023. We have no decision here. We want to get Sean Green on here from the Sports Gambling Podcast. Sean's going to join me when we come back to talk about some championship weekend props and picks and some matchups. We're going to do that next on This Week in Pro Football.
Concrete Cutting Systems Incorporated, the concrete cutting specialists in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. These guys are celebrating their 28th anniversary as the industry leader in the field of concrete cutting and robotic demolition. Any type of concrete cutting or drilling, concrete demolition or interior excavating, call the specialists. Concrete Cutting Systems. They're the only full union concrete cutting company based in Philadelphia. Call the guys today at 215-533-0652. The website is concretecuttingsystems.net. Let's go Eagles.
UGI.
First Bank is a true community bank with offices located throughout eastern Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Being a First Bank customer comes with access to personal bankers, ones who know you and your business almost as well as you do. Joe Calabro is a regional president of First Bank and has been a leader and a lender in the southeastern Pennsylvania market for over 30 years. Call their Westchester office, 484-881-3800. First Bank is an equal opportunity lender and member FDIC.
UGI Energy Services knows how dedicated you are to your teams, and that's how they feel about their customers. UGI Energy Services, a natural gas and electric provider servicing Philadelphia and the surrounding areas for decades. They're your local partner for energy planning and budgeting with sound purchasing advice and direct pricing. UGI Energy Services values customers and believes in building honest relationships. Let them help you save money on your energy bill and make enjoying the game that much sweeter. Get started with a free quote today at ugies.com. Where do you tailgate when your team's away? Join Judd's and Jackson's at Spring Mill for their first ever Birds Tailgate Party on Sunday, September 25th, starting at noon under the tent. Enjoy a full tailgate buffet from only $26.95 per person, along with specials at the bar. Celebrate with friends cheering on our hometown team. Judd's and Jackson's at Spring Mill Athletic Club. Visit juddsdining.com for more details.
Evolution Energy Partners has helped hundreds of businesses save millions of dollars on their energy spent. They offer electricity and gas procurement strategies, efficiency audits and engineering and financing solutions, as well as online utility bill management. To learn how your business can save, visit www.evolutionep.com or contact Chuck Herschella at 610-329-8288. Evolution Energy Partners, energy solutions to improve your bottom line.
I want to be a game changer in construction. I want to be able to provide diversity in the workforce, and it starts at the top. I started Rodriguez Construction Group in 2013 with 2 employees, and we're 85 strong today. M&T has been a great partner since day one, providing us the access, the opportunity, the funding to be able to continue our growth. We can change the community in a positive way, one person at a time, one job at a time, and one family at a time. I think M&T Bank is very committed to the community, just like us.
Welcome back to This Week in Pro Football, a championship edition of This Week in Pro Football. And what kind of championship can you even talk about without bringing this guy on, a champion prognosticator and the architect of the Sports Gambling Podcast? That would be Sean Green. Sean, how you doing, pal?
Doing great. I mean, the Birds are in the conference championship game. Yeah. Just throttled the Giants 38-7. I can't complain at all.
No, and you deserve some credit. You said that last week that was going to be a comfortable Eagles win. Have you seen Ryan since that game? Has he been accounted for? Did you any concerns on your part there?
Yeah, I mean, we don't need the AC in the studio because it has been chilly with Ryan there watching the game, and yeah, he took it as well as you can when your team gets demolished in a divisional round playoff against a divisional opponent. But yeah, tough look for the Giants.
Yeah, it was. But now that that's over, I guess the Giants think that their future's bright. They got some decisions to make, too. It's going to be interesting, Sean, to see what the Giants do about Saquon. They're going to re-sign Daniel Jones, and they're going to overpay for him, in my opinion. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Saquon.
Yeah, no, a lot of tough decisions in the offseason. Do you tag Saquon? He already turned down $12 million. Usually when you pay a running back a lot of money, doesn't work out well. Just ask the Dallas Cowboys.
Exactly right. And here's another thought for you. And I know I'm getting off the track here, but I'd like to get your opinion on it. I think you're right. General managers around the league now have kind of de-emphasized the running back position in terms of percentage of salary cap. They don't want to commit a lot of money. One thing I noted in this championship game Sunday in Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts cap hit this year, $1.6 million. Brock Purdy's cap hit, $725,000, right? So I wonder if any GMs around the league are going to say, you know what? Maybe the way to build a successful franchise is to just hit it with a quarterback that you're not paying too much money to, and then ship him out when he wants the big contract.
Yeah, no, it is interesting. You could make a case that maybe the quarterback position is getting squeezed with the way the free agency. I mean, would you rather pay $30 million to Kirk Cousins or $700,000 to Brock Purdy? I mean, the reason Brock Purdy has been successful as he was is because of all the talented skill position players and line he has in front of him. So
that's
really putting him in a great place to succeed.
That's the thing, Sean. You know, you can make the case old school guys, I guess, would. That football is somewhat like baseball. They always said in baseball that you got to be strong right up the middle. Catcher, second base, shortstop, center field. Got to be strong. In football, the Eagles have two terrific lines, offensive and defensive, and that helps them win a lot of games. Jalen Hurts has been outstanding this year. He's an MVP candidate for sure. But the Eagles win games a lot of time because those two lines dominate.
Yeah, you know, and really you could credit Andy Reid because Andy Reid, when he came in and all those years where he was successful, it was because they really stressed the offensive and defensive line. And then when Howie Roseman was coming up and he saw how they were running the team and the success they had with it, he's continued to build around the offensive and defensive line. And Hassan Reddick has really had an amazing impact on this defense.
Yes.
17.5 sacks. I know he's not considered a defensive player of the year, but man, Brock Purdy might be, considering him, quite the handful.
That's right. He might get to know him quite well. Yeah. And let's not forget Temple University graduate. All right. Exactly. I got to throw that out there, Sean. All right. All right. Listen, two things I wanted to hit you with before we get to the props or the picks. What do you think home field is worth here? I mean, there's been some talk how it really doesn't that playoff games anymore. It doesn't seemingly matter as much, but I mean, this is Thunderdome the 49ers are coming into here. Do you put a lot of emphasis on the fact the Eagles are playing at home?
Well, I think old school handicapping would just say, hey, home field is worth 3 points. Just lock it in. Now I think we see that they've definitely reduced that number to like 1.5 in some places. But I think in certain stadiums like Lincoln Financial Field, where there is a legit home field, I do think you have to give them 2.5, 3 points. So I think, and even in Kansas City, they have a legit home field, although they seem to get tight during the playoffs, but I still have that home field as like 2.5, 3 points. It's a couple other stadiums, a couple other teams where home field really does make a difference.
All right. But then and let me get this one last point, and then I want to come back to that spread, because if you're giving the Eagles 3, I'll be curious to see where you think that line should be. But just this one other thing. I mentioned to Sal Pao this at Brock Purdy. He's 5 straight wins as a starter. All right. Washington, Vegas, Arizona, Seattle, and Dallas. Now, it's not exactly murderer's row there. Do you think that you can't really project for a guy like Brock Purdy and say, look, Brock, you're about to take a major step up in class. I mean, do you think he's ready for it?
No, I don't. There's a reason no rookie quarterback has ever started in a Super Bowl. It's because it's really hard as a rookie to win a conference championship game. And you couldn't go into a more hostile environment than the one he's facing. Not only the crowd noise, but like I just mentioned, the Eagles are nipping at the heels of the 85 Bears as far as sacks, tackles for losses. Yeah. If you force Brock Purdy to roll out to his left, he is severely limited. And you know who's going to help him roll to his left is Hassan Reddick coming off that right tackle. Now they have Trent Williams, who's really good at left tackle. He can't play both tackles. Right. So I think it's a tough spot for him. It's his third road start in the NFL.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I agree. That's where I think the Eagles have the biggest edge, to tell you the truth. But I don't know. We'll see. The kid's been a marvel so far, but I just wonder if when he gets in that atmosphere. We'll see how that goes.
Well, and check out my I tweeted, someone shared they cut together a highlight reel of all the near interceptions for Brock Purdy. He's been on thin ice, and I I don't think the Eagles are going to drop those interceptable passes that he keeps getting away with. I think that's
right.
going to be the difference.
By the way, throw your Twitter handle at Sean T. Green, right? That's it.
Yep.
At Sean T. Xander was kind enough to put it up there. Man, give this guy a follow. Terrific follow on Twitter. Not as good as me, but he's coming up there. He's clearly making a good case.
Thank you. Yes.
All right. Listen, back to that spread thing now. Now we get to the picks and whatever props you might like here. Talking with Sean Green here, the Sports Gambling Podcast. Please check this website out. It's a terrific website. You mentioned that you would probably give the Eagles close to a 3, at least a 2.5 point number. But the Eagles are only a 1.5 point. Right? No, has it gotten to 2.5 now, Sean?
Yeah, I think most places have a 2.5.
2.5.
Yeah.
So basically, they rate these teams even. Then is that right?
Yeah, and I think you're underestimating a lot of things. One, the Eagles get an extra day of rest. Two, they were able to rest their defensive line kind of during that Giants game. Like they weren't out there for much of the game. They rotated heavily. Only 3 Eagles defensive linemen had more than 20 snaps. Then you bring on the fact that the 49ers skill position players are pretty banged up. Elijah Mitchell, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel all didn't practice today on Thursday. I think they're all going to play, but I don't think they're 100%. And I think the Eagles' offensive and defensive line are better than the 49ers. Now, the 49ers have, Bosa and Trent Williams, who are both good. But, I think the sum of the whole there, or the sum of the parts for the offensive and defensive line for the Eagles is better. And last but not least, let's talk about the quarterback position. If you're honestly looking at what Brock Purdy you've seen from him and Jalen Hurts, and you have these 2 quarterbacks graded equal, you're insane. Jalen Hurts is a much better quarterback. He's focused. He's more experienced. And at the end of the day, you throw in a better quarterback with home field, with more rest. It's a slam dunk.
I tell you, Sean, I think it's amazing how stubborn some of the national press are being about both Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni.
Yes.
They don't want to give any of them credit. Sirianni, not even a finalist, apparently, for Coach of the Year. And Hurts is not going to win MVP. Mahomes is going to win the MVP. I just think there's some hesitation here to recognize what a job each of those 2 guys has done this year.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Hurts, 15-1 as a starter. Now, his only loss was when they turned it over 4 times. Now, that was like an A.J. Brown fumble and a Quez Watkins fumble. If the Eagles turn it over 4 times, they're probably not going to win the game.
Yeah, no team is.
That feels like an outlier. Unless you're the Jacksonville Jaguars. That was part of their game.
Well, you're playing the Chargers. That always helps.
Exactly.
But I don't think the Eagles are getting their due. I think they're getting more of it now after they blitzed the Giants last week, but I still think there's a hesitation here. I think the 49ers are an NFL favorite. I mentioned the Sal Paolantonio. 49ers have not been east of Vegas since October 16th.
Yep.
They've not had to really get on a long plane ride. Well, they're getting on one this week.
100%. And you mentioned that disrespect. It's just the power ratings that these guys are hung up on. Had the 49ers, like sportsbooks were projecting the 49ers to be a road favorite of like -1, -1.5 in Philly before the divisional round games. Now they saw Brock Purdy play a top 12 defense for the first time, and they go, oh crap, maybe he's not Dan Marino. So they adjusted the number a little bit, but I don't think they've adjusted it enough.
All right. So you like Philadelphia. I do like Philadelphia also minus a 2.5. Give me some props in this game that you like. Say a couple of player props maybe that struck you as worth taking a look at.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think the 49ers' strength is their rushing defense, right? So I think, Kenny Gainwell going for 100 yards, don't see that happening. Or even our boy Boston Scott, who kills the Giants. I'm not high on him this week. I do think A.J. Brown, he's a guy that he doesn't have back-to-back quiet games. I think A.J. Brown, anytime touchdown at +155, most places is a very good bet. He was very vocal about wanting the ball. I think they're going to get him the ball, 1, because he's just such a dominant force, and 2, I think there's some real advantages to be had against the 49ers cornerbacks.
That's what I said to Sal. I said that to Sal, Sean, that the Eagles are going to have a tougher time running it than certainly they have had like against the Giants. But I think the Eagles are good at chunk plays. They led the league in those kind of chunk plays. So I think you're right. I think that's something the Eagles don't force it, but they should at least test it early on in the game.
100%. Again, that's how you beat the 49ers. Get behind them deep. Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown are going to be tough, especially if they're keeping linebackers in to spy Hurts or try and move a safety on Goddard. Like, there's just too many weapons for them.
Any other props you're looking at?
Yeah, I do. I do really like the A.J. Brown anytime touchdown. And then Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown has just been it's been automatic. He just always gets a touchdown. Again, they use him on goal line situations.
Yeah.
Clearly, they're not afraid to even run him with the shoulder thing. In like gotta have it situations, they run Jalen Hurts.
All right.
So any sort of 3rd and 4th and goal, he's going to be running.
All right, Sean, we got 1 minute left here. Give me your take on Bengals Chiefs. I see you like Cincinnati. I do too. I think Cincinnati is the better team here, and I think they're on some sort of a mission. Give me your thoughts on this game, and how strongly do you like the Bengals?
Yeah, I really like the Bengals. Again, since the NFL kind of, gave them the short end of the stick, they seem to have a real chip on their shoulders.
And they did give them the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
But ironically, like if that Bills game was played in a neutral field, it may have actually helped the Bills if they played it in like a dome. I think the snow actually helped the Bengals offensive line. Regardless, to me, the matchup is the Bengals offense against the Chiefs defense. Chiefs defense 20th in pass DVOA. I think the Bengals are going to be able to throw the ball and move the ball against this Chiefs secondary. And it's not even factoring in the Mahomes injury that much. I just think it's more about the Chiefs defense not being able to slow down the Bengals offense.
Yeah, Mahomes is an absolutely outstanding player. He is a great quarterback, very super talented. But you know what is amazing? An amazing stat, Sean. The Chiefs led the league this year in yards after the catch yardage. That is amazing, given the fact they lost Tyreek Hill.
Yeah,
it just goes to show you how good Mahomes and Reed are at their respective jobs. But still, I think Cincinnati is a better team on Sunday. All right, Sean Green, listen, thanks a lot for joining me again, for coming back out of a 1-week retirement. I know you were getting all set to relax on Thursday nights, but it's great that you joined me again. I'd love to grab you for another couple of weeks here, especially if our boys actually make it to Arizona. You can give me a live report from out there because I know you'll be there.
Oh, yep. Yep, we'll be out in Arizona regardless. So, Hopefully we talk birds in the Super Bowl next time I talk to you, Pat.
All right, Sean. Thanks very much, pal. Appreciate the time. All right, Sean Green there from the Sports Gambling Podcast. Please check that out online. Excellent website. And speaking of excellence, when we come back, I'll have the great Gary Myers joining me from the New York Daily News, the Dallas Morning News, and a prolific NFL author. And we'll be talking to Gary about my list of teams that are facing some uncertainties, and we'll talk some quarterbacks who might be moving and get Gary's take on those conference championship games. That's all next on This Week in Pro Football.
UGI Energy Services knows how dedicated you are to your teams, and that's how they feel about their customers. UGI Energy Services, a natural gas and electric provider servicing Philadelphia and the surrounding areas for decades. They're your local partner for energy planning and budgeting with sound purchasing advice and direct pricing. UGI Energy Services values customers and believes in building honest relationships. Let them help you save money on your energy bill and make enjoying the game that much sweeter. Get started with a free quote today at UGIES.com.
For the team at Cordasco Financial Network, a part of Mercer Advisors, financial planning is about more than just managing your money. They guide you in making retirement, tax, insurance, and estate planning decisions by creating a plan based entirely on your individual needs. Plus, Cordasco Financial Network professionals work one-on-one with business owners in creating and managing company 401k plans, IRAs, and defined benefit plans. They can help you maximize plan efficiency, ensure full regulatory compliance, and optimize tax obligations. Call 855-558-3500 or click the link in the description below to learn more. Let their team help you secure your future. 855-558-3500. Cordasco Financial Network is a trade name owned by Mercer Global Advisors, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Andrew Garrett Incorporated, which is not affiliated with Cordasco Financial Network or Mercer Advisors. Client experiences vary. Successful outcomes not guaranteed.
Johnny Apple's restaurant and bar opened in 2001 and for over 20 years has been serving great food and good times to Bucks County residents, friends, and family. Ideally located at 184 Buck Road in Holland, Johnny Apple's offers a terrific array of steaks, seafood, and daily specials. They also host private parties and affairs of any size. For excellent food, great company, and a relaxed lunch or dinner, check out Johnny Apple's restaurant at 215-953-9900 or at johnnyapplesrestaurant.com.
Concrete Cutting Systems Incorporated, the concrete cutting specialists in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. These guys are celebrating their 28th anniversary as the industry leader in the field of concrete cutting and robotic demolition. Any type of concrete cutting or drilling, concrete demolition or interior excavating, call the specialists. Concrete Cutting Systems. They're the only full union concrete cutting company based in Philadelphia. Call the guys today at 215-533-0652. The website is concretecuttingsystems.net. Let's go Eagles.
I want to be a game changer in construction. I want to be able to provide diversity in the workforce, and it starts at the top. I started Rodriguez Construction Group in 2013 with 2 employees, and we're 85 strong today. M&T has been a great partner since day one, providing us the access, the opportunity, the funding to be able to continue our growth. We can change the community in a positive way, one person at a time, one job at a time, and one family at a time. I think M&T Bank is very committed to the community, just like us.
All right, welcome back this week in pro football. Pat Callahan joining you here on JAKIB Sports as we all get ourselves set for the NFL Championship Sunday. 2 terrific games, I think, are on the slate. Philadelphia hosting San Francisco in the early slot, and then Cincinnati traveling to Kansas City in the late evening 6:30 p.m. game. Let's welcome this gentleman in here, a prolific NFL author and longtime columnist for the New York Daily News, the Dallas Morning News, and the author of soon-to-be-out book about the New York Giants. That'd be the great Gary Myers. Gary, how you doing?
Pat, how you doing tonight? A little bonus episode here.
Yes. Well, popular demand. Everybody was yelling, bring back Gary. We need more Gary
No,
Myers.
They were saying bring back Pat. They weren't yelling.
Well, of course. I was just trying to be nice, Gary. Of course, they were talking about bringing me back. All right, Gary, let's open up a little trivia here. Little trivia for an NFL guru like yourself. Only 2 teams in NFL history, one in each conference, have never lost a conference championship game. Think you could name either one?
Wow. Probably
I'll give you a hint. One of them is playing Sunday.
Okay. Never lost a conference chance. Cincinnati.
Cincinnati is right.
Cincinnati?
Yes, Cincinnati is 3-0 in conference championship games. Of course, they're not too good 2 weeks later. They haven't.
Yeah, it's a small sample size, but
well, they play. Yeah, right. But they're 0-3 in Super Bowls.
Right.
And the other is Seattle. Seattle 3-0 in conference
Wow.
championship games. Yeah.
I tried to.
Yeah. But what I wanted to start with, Gary, before we get to the conference championship games, is this. I had mentioned earlier in the show that there were some teams that I think are really now peering out over the abyss, not just salary cap wise, but also just the season or the franchise just doesn't seem to be where it ought to be. I'm going to give you the team name. Just give me 30 seconds on each team and where you think they are. First is Buffalo, coming off what I think is a very disappointing loss to Cincinnati.
Yeah, I mean, a very emotional season for them, and you really wonder if by last weekend it had taken its toll.
Right.
And, I mean, they did a great job rallying around DeMar Hamlin, keeping their focus there for a few weeks. But, you know, going up against a team in the quality of Cincinnati,
right?
And they didn't seem to the Bills did not seem to have the energy at the beginning of the game, and they quickly fell behind 14-0. You know, the term that we always use now, Pat, is window of opportunity.
Yeah.
And I know people say, "Oh, did the Bills?" You know, has the window of opportunity closed on them? I don't think so. Josh Allen is still a young quarterback. Yeah. Diggs still has plenty of good years left, unless he talks his way out of there in the offseason. They just need to fix the defense a little bit.
And they need to actually acknowledge that you can run the ball in the NFL.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
All right, second team, you noticed the name's coming, Dallas. 3 weeks ago, they looked terrible in a loss to the Commanders. Then they turn around and they dispatch of Tampa. And then last week, I didn't think San Francisco was ever really threatened in that game, Gary. Whether the Dallas Cowboys, and also in light of that tweet that the official Cowboys Twitter feed puts out about Dak Prescott.
Yeah. I mean, you wonder if Jerry signed off on that.
Yeah.
The team websites around the league are so vanilla, and for them to post that about Dak, I was really surprised. I retweeted it and I said, the Cowboys website's gone tabloid.
Yeah.
I mean, I like it. It was being honest, but
yeah.
The thing that threw people off, Pat, is what they did against the Bucks, a sub 500 team that struggled the entire season.
Agreed.
They dominated them after the first
right.
couple of series, and everybody jumps back on the Cowboy bandwagon.
You're right.
I'm really curious now what's going on there. We heard that so many assistant coaches didn't get their contracts renewed. McCarthy had a press conference on Thursday, so you figure, okay, he's probably coming back. But Jerry has not spoken since, his usual post-game gathering right outside the locker room on Sunday. He skipped his radio show this week. So did his son. I still wouldn't discount the possibility of Sean Payton winding up there. Sean, you haven't heard his name much lately.
No, you haven't.
In line for a job, and I'm just wondering if a lot of stuff is going on behind the scenes.
All right. The other team, Gary, I just wanted to get your take on is Minnesota. I mentioned earlier in the show that the Minnesota has not even appeared in a Super Bowl since 1977. They always seem to be a competitive team. They're never among the league's bottom feeders, but they just can't seem to get anywhere near the top of the mountain. Where are the Vikings?
Well, I mean, they came close in Brett Favre's first year there when they lost to the Saints in overtime in the championship game. But you're right. I mean, for the last, what are we, up to 40-something years?
Yeah, you're talking about 45 years, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing for the Jets, so everybody knows,
right,
stink for half a century.
Right.
But, Vikings have had a lot of good players there. Didn't they lose a championship game to Atlanta at home on a field goal?
Oh, they did. A game when Gary Anderson, who hadn't missed all year, missed a field goal, and then they lost to the Eagles in 17. So you're right. They've gotten close, but it just seems as an organization that they lack that kind of closing instinct.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, you're right. I don't think they're going to be closing anything with Kirk Cousins at the quarterback.
Right.
But I just don't think he's a real clutch player, and you kind of saw that against the Giants. I mean, they had no business losing to the Giants at home in a playoff game.
Yeah.
But Kevin O'Connell's first year, so now nobody went into the season really expected them to be a team that went deep into the playoffs. But because they win 13 games, you just expect a lot more from them. And they were underachieved this year as the season progressed, and we saw they could be a viable Super Bowl contender, not to get out of the divisional round. Out of the wild card round, it was really disappointing for the Vikings.
All right, Gary, we're going to switch gears a little bit now. I'm going to name you 4 quarterbacks. I want you to tell me where you think they will be in 2023. And we'll start, of course, with a certain Thomas Brady.
Well, I think we can pretty much book it that he's not going to be back in Tampa.
Right.
It seems pretty obvious that that's run its course, and the Bucs grew old together. Yeah. And they should consider themselves very fortunate they had Brady for that 2020 season, and they won a Super Bowl.
Right.
Where he's going to wind up, it depends on, I'd say, Tua's health situation in Miami. Can he be a player they can count on when it seems he really has a concussion problem? And for his sake, I hope it's not recurring and that the time off, heals his brain. But it seems he's more susceptible to him now. Steve Ross paid a heavy fine, and I think a few game suspension for tampering with Brady. Now he's going to be a free agent. Is this the time he really goes and gets him? If it's not Miami, then the natural link to Josh McDaniels in Vegas would make some sense. Except that would take him even further away from his kids, who I'm pretty sure are going to be living in Miami. That's another reason why the Dolphins does make sense.
All right, Derek Carr is not going back to Vegas. I've never been a big fan of Derek Carr, Gary. I don't know. What are your feelings about him? And do you think any team's going to make a concerted push to get him?
Well, I would say I would put two teams at the top of the list. One, the Jets, because they're determined to get a veteran quarterback. And I know I'm going to talk more about the next guy you get asked me about. If it's not the Jets, then potentially Indianapolis, because I think they got a kind of a cool thing going there. Just bring in a different veteran quarterback every year and see if they can strike gold, strike oil. I mean, I'm just going to look at my note. Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan have been their season opening starters each of the last 3 years. Before that, they went with Brian Hoyer and Jacoby Brissett. So I think Cards, I think I saw a stat, Pat, that 0-7 in games where the temperature was less than 30 or 35. So we wouldn't have to worry about that in Indy. I actually think that's a good fit there.
All right. And then the last name is Lamar Jackson.
Oh, you're not going to ask me about Aaron Rodgers? I thought the last name was
Aaron Rodgers. I
Rodgers.
forgot Aaron Rodgers. Let me do Aaron Rodgers
Okay.
first. Aaron Rodgers. Now, he, of course, you're hearing a lot of talk now. They're beating the drum. Certain media guys are to get him to New York. $58 million cap hit this year in Green Bay. What do you think happens with him?
Well, I think even Aaron acknowledged no matter where he plays next year, there's going to be an adjustment on his contract.
Right.
I mean, no team is going to trade for a guy that's due $58 million guaranteed by the start of the season.
Right.
The fact that the Jets hired Nathaniel Hackett as their offensive coordinator, and he did have a good relationship with Rodgers in Green Bay, perhaps that gives the Jets a little bit of an advantage when it comes to Green Bay shopping him, if they do shop him and if Aaron wants to play. Now, remember, when Hackett went to Denver last year, everybody thought, Rodgers is going to follow him to Denver. And obviously that didn't happen. And they just completely overpaid for Russell Wilson, a deal that's going to set them back 5 years.
That's right.
You know what? Everybody's talking, Pat, about Rodgers costing 2 first-round picks. There's no way the Jets are going to do that. I don't think there's any way any team is going to do it.
No.
By the end of next season, he's going to be 40 years old.
Yeah,
I wouldn't even give up a 1 at this point for him.
I agree. And you know what? To tell you the truth, I should have added Green Bay to my list of teams that are peering over the abyss, because the Packers, if they trade Aaron Rodgers, then they're going to be a pretty ugly situation, I think, in Green Bay.
Well, I think it could be ugly in Green Bay regardless.
Yeah.
Especially based on how they played in the win or in game.
I know.
Detroit in the last one of the season.
He's a handful. He is a handful. All right, the last name is Lamar
Jackson. He would be fun
Jackson.
here in New York, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that's true. Lamar Jackson is the last guy, Gary. He didn't play any of the last 6 games of the season for Baltimore with a knee injury. The optics weren't great, even though most people thought he was legitimately injured. But do you think Baltimore antes up for Lamar Jackson?
I do, because you wonder where would Baltimore go otherwise. They'd have to draft a quarterback and hope they can win with him. I think as a last resort, they'll franchise him.
Yeah.
That won't make them happy, but it'll keep them off the open market, and then they'd have until July to try to get a
work something out, right?
Yeah, I think a real impediment to a deal is the fact he doesn't have an agent, and that makes it really difficult when the general manager Eric DeCosta has to negotiate directly with the player.
Yeah. I think
that's probably why a deal hasn't gotten done to this point anyhow.
Yeah.
He doesn't have an agent.
Does make it. You're right about that.
But I do think he'll be back in Baltimore.
All right, Gary, we have a few minutes left here. Just give me your Gary Myers take here on these 2 games. I think they're both very good games. So let's start with San Francisco at Philadelphia. I like Philadelphia here. And I think they sent a little bit of a message last week that, hey, we're still one of the top teams in the NFC. Tell me how you think this one plays out.
I don't want to be, wishy-washy here, especially because I've been telling you for 2 months that I really like San Francisco. Honestly, after watching the way the Eagles played last week against the Giants, who I thought were going to give them a good game, I just can't see Brock Purdy going into Philadelphia on Sunday, where it's going to be crazy, and being able to beat the Eagles, who just were rolling last week against a decent Giants team. 49ers are much better than the Giants. 49ers have every piece in place except a quarterback who's won, a championship game.
Right.
And he didn't have to do too much against the Cowboys last week because the Cowboys couldn't score.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the Eagles. I know I'm flip-flopping on what I've been telling you all year. And watch, I'll be wrong on this one, but the Eagles have been Eagles from start to finish have really been the best team in the league all season.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And they hit that lull. What team doesn't hit a lull over
and they hit
what
the
is
lull
really a
when the
20-week
quarterback
season?
was hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing is that, they lost 2 games without the quarterback.
Yeah. Speaking of that, Gary, just on the flip side of the kind of teams we were just talking about, it'd be interesting to see what happens in San Francisco this offseason between Purdy and Trey Lance.
Yeah, I would think that, Garoppolo won't be back, and they'll have an open competition in training camp next summer.
Be
They
very
gave up so much to move up.
I know. Isn't that something? You're right. They did. They certainly did. All right, Gary, I'm guilty on this show. I really haven't spent much time on Cincinnati and Kansas City.
Yeah.
I like the Bengals here. I think the Bengals are on a little bit of a mission, especially since the league kind of jabbed them after the Damar Hamlin incident. So tell me what you think about this game here.
Yeah, if you look at this on the surface, Cincinnati's been playing a lot better than Kansas City, and they played better than Kansas City did last week against a much tougher opponent. They are a battle-tested team on the road, and because obviously they're on the road Sunday in Kansas City, where they won last year in a championship game, I give them a great chance to beat Kansas City, especially because we don't really know what kind of shape Patrick Mahomes' ankle is in. You expect that the Chiefs are going to say all week, he's fine, and Mahomes is going to say that. But let's see the first time he gets hit on that ankle, how much he's limping around and how much it affects him. I mean, he's a warrior. There's no doubt about that.
Right.
He's also human.
Yeah.
And I just love the way the Bengals have played the last 2 months of the season.
Yeah.
And I think they're going back to the Super Bowl. And then, who knows what happens after that. It'll be great. So Philadelphia, Cincinnati, I like the fact that that's a matchup that we've never seen before.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I think that would be a fun one.
Yeah. All right, Gary Myers, I appreciate you answering the bell when I dragooned you back here this week. And I look forward. I think we got a couple weeks to go. I think Philadelphia is going to win too. So it'll be big excitement here in the next 2 weeks if Philadelphia does pull this off. So I'd love to have you back to talk about.
I just don't want to see any pictures of you climbing up light posts, on Broad Street.
No, Gary, I don't. I don't think you'll see any. I'm going to hazard the guess right now that that's the picture you will not see.
Good. I'm proud of you.
It's enough now to climb up the stairs. All right. So let me just work on that. All right.
All right.
All right, Gary, thanks a lot. The great Gary Myers joining me here, and appreciate that, Gary, very much. All right, so there you have it for this week in pro football for championship week edition. 2 great games on Sunday. Thanks very much to Sal Paolantonio, Sean Green, Gary Myers for joining me. And thank you very much to JAKIB Sports bringing me back here for the next couple of weeks, maybe, and hopefully to talk about an Eagles Super Bowl run. We'll do that next week on This Week in Pro Football.